Hey everyone, want to welcome you to another installment of Open Air presented by the Harvey B. Gantt Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm Dexter Wimberly. Today we have a wonderful guest, artist Carla Aaron-Lopez. Carla is a photographer, printmaker, and collagist. Ever defined expectation, Carla has also expanded her practice to include murals and painting. She is a deeply committed collaborator whose own work is frequently created with fellow artists at various stages of their career. Carla has pioneered platforms for underground artists and built spaces that encourage experimentation in both Atlanta and Charlotte. Carla received her BA in graphic design from North Carolina Central University and her Master's of Fine Art in Photography and Master of Printmaking from Savannah College of Art and Design in Atlanta. In addition to creating artwork, she is a beloved arts educator within the Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. Carla considers herself a professional student of life who believes we all have the ability to learn and create anything. She is also a member of a Black Arts Collective and event space Black Market CLT. Carla is the curator of the Gantt's latest exhibition, My Presence is Present, Interpretations of Afro-Surrealism from the American South. My Presence is Present navigates through the surreal African American experiences as told by 20 emerging and established contemporary artists in and around the Carolinas. The show is on view now through January 15th of 2024. Please join me in welcoming Carla Aaron-Lopez.
It's like I'm waiting for an applause, but it's not happening because this is virtual.
Well,
My bad.
I'll give you an applause.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Doing pretty good. It's just another happy Tuesday.
Good, good. I know we got off a little bit of a later start, so I want to just jump right into everything today.
Okay.
So I know we're going to talk about the show with the Gantt and your work as a curator, but I want to talk first about your life and work as an artist. I gave a intro of you, read your bio, but I want to just hear from you directly. Like, how do you talk about yourself in the context of being an artist in your work? When you meet someone for the first time, you get that normal question, "Hey, what do you do?" Like, how do you describe yourself and your work?
You know, it's still complicated for me. I still enjoy just making things. And when I get stuck on something, I'm stuck on it. That's why I have so many different sources and mediums that I like utilizing to just create a work of art. At the end of the day, as I get older, I realize I'm truly becoming a process based artist. And I just love making marks on whatever surface that I can find. Um, I'm a hardcore art student, so in my mind, I'm still running those elements of art back through my head in terms of balance of the overall piece. But I'm just in a happy place today just to be able to make marks. So I'm looking at my handwriting, making it as big as possible, and abstracting text from my handwriting. I hope I said that right. It's like the more you write, the more abstract it becomes because you can get very, very loose with it. It doesn't have to be readable anymore. So, with different media, I like to create works of art. Some works of art tell stories, some don't. They're just a reflection of what I was listening to that day.
Thank you. And what puts you on this path for art making? I mean, is this something that have you been conscious of yourself as an artist since you were, very, very young, or was there some turning point in your adult life? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
obviously
my,
you went to study art,
yeah,
so you obviously knew you wanted to be on that path, at least in your teens. Yeah.
yeah. Well, art's all I know. Like, I've literally had no interest in doing anything that's not creative. Like, I just, I knew I was never going to go to a cubicle. I wasn't looking forward to business or accounting. Of course, those things absolutely matter today, but no, since childhood, that I'm that artist. I'm the artist that says this is what I've always wanted to do since childhood.
And so you're in a very vibrant community in Charlotte, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, um, for those who've never visited Charlotte, and that's a lot of people, right? I'm there often, but a lot of people haven't. What's the arts community like there? Like, how do you describe it to someone who has never been there, just to ask you about it?
I would say 2 years ago, it felt extremely disjointed. 2 years later, you always have to have like one zeitgeist, one catalyst, one person to connect all of these different communities, right? So 2 years later, it's honestly an extremely collaborative space. Um, there's so many different styles of artists that are here, from ceramicists to painters to muralists to photographers, and it just felt like everybody was just kind of like in their pocket doing their thing. So that bothered me. And I tried to
Mm.
figure out, how can I be the biggest villain to make all you people want to work together and make a thing? And it worked. It worked. I mean, I've seen a lot of transformations in just people's mission statements to include the word collaboration as a result of the work that I've done on the ground here for the past 2 years.
And can you talk a little bit more about collaboration in your bio? One of the things that was stated was that you often do works in collaboration with other artists. Like, why is that important to you?
Because when you are a creative and you're by yourself, yes, you will get stuck. You haven't talked to anyone else that makes things. Um, you haven't gone to explore new things. You may be stuck to the point where you don't know how to get over the next hump, right? So when you work in a collaborative manner, it doesn't matter if the piece is never going to be seen, but if you work in a collaborative manner, you'll walk away with like new ideas and new thoughts, and then you'll continue your practice as a maker and a creator. That is extremely important to the artist, to be in conversation with other artists, to be hit with challenges from other artists. I might be loose and another person might be tight. If we collaborate together, I'll remember that maybe it is a good idea to tighten up every now and then. And then for that other person, maybe it don't matter that it's good to get a little loose too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious to kind of hear a little bit more about how the community that you're in has influenced you. How's it made you think about yourself as an artist? And also like this journey of being an artist. I think I know so many artists I sort of like take for granted that everybody does, but a lot of people don't. um, so like your life as an artist, how is it different from what you thought it would be when you were in school? Is it what you thought it would be?
No. um, I was no different than everybody else. Like, should I go to New York or should I go to LA? And the reality was that I wasn't mature enough and I wasn't holding myself accountable to gross errors that I was making at the same time. So what happened was life comes to a dead halt. It just stops
Mhm.
completely. And if you're strong enough, which is a very powerful thing to say, you can get back to where you once were because you learned from your mistakes. My life as an artist, I've always been in awe of others. So I like to create that moment for others. They need to be in awe. They need to feel empowered because when they do, I do. And the more we work together, the more I become a better artist, the more I become a better business person. And then the more, I don't know, the more fun it is to go to shows and you see all your homies out there like, oh, this finna be lit. Like everybody out here. Like I'm excited because you would have essentially created the community you want to be in.
Right.
Atlanta, I had the ability to participate and assist in creating a community. So when I come here and I'm like, well, where's the community? How does this happen? Why is this not working? Why is everybody like spread out everywhere? This is weird, like I'm not used to this. I don't like this. So what I chose to do is build the community that I want to be in. I want to be around people who have done bigger things than me and learn from them. I want to be around people who are dope and based on what I've done, hey, bro, let me lift you up real quick. Because if I can get you this far, I bet you can go the rest of the way yourself.
No, that's great. That's great. And it's funny because you mentioned in New York, LA, and these places, and I think that like geography can have a profound impact on how an artist views themselves and views the world around them. I mean, I'm a New Yorker, and I have this like very critical view of New York City. I think it has all of its you know ups and that people think about and a lot of downs. But I'm only bringing this up because I think as I travel around the different places and I think about the artist communities in different places, I feel like when people are more spread out and they have to seek each other out, and it takes more effort to build that community, you get a different kind of vibe. Because I think when people do finally connect and find each other, I think that they're actually closer. They're more tight knit because you're not just bumping up against people all the time randomly. So you can kind of take them for granted. And I think that I see stronger, closer knit communities in different places than in the bigger cities. I mean, Charlotte's a big city, but I'm just saying, like, all of these, like, quote unquote art cities, right?
Yeah.
But be that as it may, you mentioned challenges and you mentioned inspiration. So let's talk about inspirations first. Like, who are some of the artists that inspire you? I mean, like, big name, well known artists, and also like artists that are just in your community that you find to be inspiring.
For right now, I am completely standing out over Henry Taylor, Adam Pendleton, and Jose Parla. Completely
Yeah,
standing out on them because it's time for me to focus on my practice versus curation at this moment right now, because that's how I get that mental break from curation. Um, they fades locals. I know for a fact that everybody in my sub community knows that I'm obsessed with my newest protege, Soho, because I had to figure out how to get this kid a solo show before he goes back to college this week, because that's what I mean by like truly uplifting. He inspires me. Another one of these artists that use all the damn crayons in the box. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with my black and white. But because I'm around you, I'm well, color might not be so bad, And he reminds me of like what it's like to just freely create again, you know? It does get to a space where life is lifing. All right. You got a family, you got kids, you got
yeah,
jobs, because
yeah,
living is now truly expensive, right?
yeah,
So, what is it
yeah,
like to just take a breath of fresh air and watch a young creative just work, just work?
yeah.
You remember what you used to do and how you used to roll. I think I'm a better person for that.
Yeah, that's dope. And I'm happy to hear that. I want to talk about the show at the Gantt Center, but before we do that, I have a few more questions because I think once we get into talking about that show, we probably won't be talking about much else.
Nah, because the
um,
show is lit. It's time for you to see it, baby.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be down there. I'll be seeing it for sure, for sure. Um, so you mentioned better business person earlier. Like, one of the things you said was like how to become a better business person. So talk about that a little bit. I mean, you're connecting the dots for a lot of different projects and people. Talk about the collective that you have down in Charlotte as well. I mean, introduce people to like what it's about. What is Black Market about?
So, Black Market is a working studio. We are the safe space for creatives of color. Because, real talk, something that all of us have experienced in school is, yeah, I really do want to listen to misogynistic rap music out of the South very loudly when I create. And no, I don't want to put headphones on because it's offending Sally, you know? And here, that may be one thing that's the surface, right? But in practice, what we've come to learn is that we do get a lot of young creatives who are looking to get to that next level and are trying to show and prove that they can get to the next level. They just need a bit of assistance and guidance. And for those that are truly putting in the work, improving their worth, I mean, we've seen people like leave full-time jobs and become full-time muralists because they define what kind of artist they wanted to be and where they wanted to go with their works. We've seen people leave jobs and then boom, they're in the gallery spaces, they're doing what they want to do. That that is a labor of love, to be so consistent in a space and so consistent with work and mentorship that is not just a collective, it's more than that. It is truly a community staple, because you are more than welcome to come in and work, to come in and converse. You are not welcome if you come in to look for clout, because we still Black people, you know what I'm saying? We're not the fancy New York art people, we Black people from the South. If you come up in here looking for clout, you can walk right back on out.
No, I get it.
Can
I
hear
get it. I mean,
Yeah,
what?
But it's true though, 10 years worth of hard work and all you see is the end result of a journey.
Yeah. No, I totally respect that. I respect that. I mean, what's the glue? I mean, I think I've seen a lot of people try to start their own collectives in different cities. And
Mhm.
then it's like, you know, it works for a little while and then all of a sudden it's not working. I mean, what do you think is the glue? I mean, I hate to use this corny term secret sauce, but like what's the secret sauce that keeps it all together?
Uh, True camaraderie. This is still our job, so we treat it like going to work, which means that
Mm,
I'm not going to your house after the studio. Like I'm going home, like that. That's a thing, camaraderie, treating it like a job, and belief. Just the belief that one is dope, the belief that one can, the belief that, yeah, you gonna mess up, but we gonna find where the mistake happened and let's improve. Let's make sure we don't do that again, right? And when you instill that into others, they become stronger, better humans.
yeah, yeah, no, I get that. And the camaraderie is an important part of it. I think that there's something else you said earlier in our conversation that really, strikes a chord with me. And I think that it's it's like a mental thing that some people feel and others don't necessarily feel. Like I
Hmm.
genuinely enjoy seeing other people succeed. Like I like
Yeah,
really it helps when they're my friends, right? Like it helps when it's
yeah,
people I know, love. I mean, but it's one of those things where if you can find joy in seeing other people succeed, and you can also like help them succeed, I think your life will be is so much more like fulfilled and richer than
yeah.
just trying to focus on your own stuff and only your own stuff all the time. It's a big difference, I think. Yeah, so that
There's
that
a
might be also part of your secret sauce.
yeah, like there's a young lady in the exhibition. She was an elementary school art teacher. The school system she was working for wasn't really doing great by their teachers, so she left. She
Hmm.
walked away from teaching. She was a part of the Great Resignation, as we call it in education land, And when she walked away, we spent a long time talking, figuring out directions, where to go, what to do. And a year later, she has a successful mobile art studio for kids and got her first Best of the Best award out of Charlotte Magazine just a year later, because we all share that same tenacity of, I got to go get it, I got to be the best, and also believing that it's inevitable there's somebody out there that's better than you.
Right, right. No, I get it completely. I want to turn our attention to the exhibition. My present is present: interpretations of Afro surrealism from the American South. So there's a quote on the Gantt site relating to the show that I want to read, and then I'll ask you to tell us a little bit more about the show. So the
Yeah.
quote is your quote. It says, "If we define Blackness as a living term constantly evolving and taking on new meanings across our various lived Black experiences, our present is now more surreal than ever. Since artists of color are constantly reacting to the socio-cultural politics of a post-colonial world, then it is time to look at how we interpret our present states of being." I'd love to hear more from you about that and unpack that statement and tell us more about the show.
For sure. Well, something that I truly believe is that blackness, yes, that's a living word because we have no set definition for it. You know what I'm saying? And since we don't have a set definition for it, the word is constantly evolving to take on new forms of Black identities, however we define them. I know that to make this make sense, I am a Black person from the American South, right? So my identity is already wrapped up into a bubble, if you will. People can interpret that however way they want to interpret that. So if that's the case, it's not just my identity as the Negro from America, it's about all the people of the diaspora globally. What does their reality look like? Like what a Black person in Britain goes through is not what a Black person in Sweden goes through. So that present context, that present moment, it is very surreal. It's a little odd, if you will, The example I use to tell people is, imagine walking into an office with all of the cubicles out and you're the only black person. That is a very odd moment because thoughts that are scanning in your head, even if you know everybody in the office, you can know everybody, that's fine. But there's a brief moment in time where it's just absolutely odd that you are the only black person. And depending on who that person is, they may hold on to that moment, they may let it go. But you experience the surreal, the second all heads and faces turned and all eyeballs were on you and no one looks like you. That is very much so surreal, and it happens to Black people globally.
Yeah, it's an interesting explanation of that. You know, all those shows that some that we grew up watching, like the Twilight Zone, and then the more recent shows like Black Mirror. A lot of the episodes are things that I think Black people have just sort of dealt with in their own ways, like just existing in a world where you're like you feel like you're in this like parallel universe. Um,
Yeah.
Talk to me, yeah, talk a little bit more about the concept of the show, the surrealism, and we have some images as well that we can get into in a moment. But yeah, what was your talk a little bit more about your inspirations?
So I've been obsessed with Afro surrealism for a little while now, and I didn't even know it was a word that existed. Like it's a word that's been living for 8 years, but the concept altogether dates back to the negritude movement. What I began to realize over time is that my favorite forms of programming was Donald Glover's Atlanta, Issa Rae's Insecure, um, Blind Spotting on Stars, Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley, and all of these things. They would take these normal everyday moments and then pull all of this content out of it in this very dreamlike way. So it's surreal in that context, like what was originally talked about via the Italian surrealist movement, right, or the European surrealist movement. It is odd, but when I use an example like Blind Spotting, where a black man is on house arrest and has to carry extension cords to his job interview, and when he gets frustrated and goes into a rhyme, because the show is created by David Diggs, when he goes into a rhyme as out of frustration, right? Every background character would start dancing like beautiful ballet dances. Like it's in that moment they are seen, they are felt in his frustration. And a lot of the works in that show are connected to the Afro Surrealist themes that Jamila wrote about in the essay that's coming out later on for the exhibition catalog. The magical, the fantastic, the ridiculous, if you will, uncovering these invisible worlds. All of the artists I selected, their works reflect those different natures. So I wanted to take a moment to do a deep dive academically into Afro Surrealism and also show everybody what I have learned about curation in 2 years.
Yeah, and let's talk about curation. Let's talk about that process for those who are not familiar with it. I mean, what was the biggest challenge you faced in organizing this exhibition?
Puzzle pieces, everything. It's like my brain shuts off to reality and everything becomes a puzzle piece. So if I say this is the thing, all right, who would be the best puzzle pieces for this thing? And how do I select from all of these names the right amount of works that not only prove that this is something that is happening, but also be able to exhibit like the technical superiority of all of the artists in the exhibition.
No, that's great. That's great. We have about 10 images. I'd love to look at some of these and continue to ask you some additional questions. So we'll have the magicians in the background have the images come up, and you know you can share whatever you like about each of these works. If you recall the title, great. I know there's a lot of works in shows, so maybe you don't, or you do recall the titles,
We'll
but
see.
just tell us a little bit about the work.
All right, so first up, we got Asa Jackson. And I came across this piece in Charlotte. It was in Hodges Taylor, and it was massive in the space. And I was like, who did this? I just went there. I had so many questions. If a work of art makes me ask so many questions, you did your job successfully as the artist, because now I have nothing but questions, right? This is Ace's piece called Darkness Upon the Face of the Deep, and is very reflective of the beginning chapters of Genesis. Ace is big into as above, so below thought processes and how we're all connected. And he wants people to be able to view this piece and think about how the universe started. Up next is
Thank you.
Downs. You, you give your body back when you go away. This is such a beautiful piece to see in person. Downs works strictly with a lot of India ink and brushwork, but every single piece that he creates is a conversation about Black people and their state of mental health. What I just learned about this piece is that it is a reference to Caravaggio. I can't remember the painting specifically, but when I was talking to the CEO of the Mint, he loved this piece because it reminded him of that painting. And I do think that that's pretty cool. I didn't know if another
That's
image
great.
was going to pop up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've asked them to slow down the images a bit so that we can just spend a little bit more time reflecting on them. Um, and you may have mentioned it, but this work is this a painting or a drawing?
It is a painting. It's a
Hmm.
entire painting just done in ink.
Oh,
Everything in
fantastic.
Downs's paintings is a symbol of something. And it would just be so awesome to get him to talk about it. But the many faces, if I remember correctly, is a reflection of all of the different thoughts and personas that we have to go through and we have to wear as Black people while our mental health is deteriorating. Like the all eyes on
And
me aspect is
yeah, yeah. Um, can we advance to the next image? Just want to make sure that we're all in sync here. I think I was just asked to refresh just to make sure the timing and everything is going correctly. But I think we're in good shape. Um,
okay, cool.
so please share what you can about this work.
All right, Citrus Olympia, Damn It Wesley. Damn It Wesley and Jamia Marlowe and Garrison Gist do something very interesting that I think will absolutely be helpful to artists of all types later on in the future. Will Jenkins also did the same thing. They've been using Midjourney to create their reference images and then make from there. So instead of having to physically compile images or produce the sketch, you just write the prompt, you submit it into Midjourney. The more you work with Midjourney, the more they open up other things that you can do to manipulate the images to the way you want them to be. I think that that's absolutely fabulous, phenomenal. In a sea of conversations of people saying that artificial intelligence is going to kill us, probably as of right now, I have found artists that have figured out how to use it as a tool for their practice. And that is mind blowing to me. Like, no, I don't want to use the digital file I created. The digital file is now my reference point for a new set of paintings. I see you rubbing your face like that. Like, that's got you on some,
Well, I mean, it just makes me think about a lot of things. You mentioned artificial intelligence is something I spend a lot of time thinking about. And I feel like AI, as it relates to the arts, is it's a rough thing to say, but I think it's more of a positive than a threat.
exactly.
Now, yeah, yeah, that's not a popular view, though.
No, I know it's not. But I mean, just think of that. Like, they don't you don't have to come straight off the top of the head. You can move and tweak the image to the point where, okay, yes, this is my reference. You still have liberty and freedoms as an artist. Like, what we're looking at in the painting is still not the exact same image that was produced during that time. But there are elements
Absolutely.
from yeah, there are elements from the reference image, though, that makes it a powerful image. The whiteness of her coat, the man in the background, the beautiful wallpaper behind the woman. that really weird set of oranges in the back because computers are still trying to figure it out as well. This random umbrella in this lounge like scene. Everything about this is absolutely beautiful. And it's a complex image, in my opinion. It's his perspective of Manet's Olympia versus us
Right,
continuing to accept the hideous nature of Olympia.
right, right. Yeah, I think with AI as a tool, what it's what it's what is possible for a artist to do with less expense is tremendous. I mean, the idea that you would have to always organize a photo shoot to get images to work from for your paintings or drawings, and now you can still do that, of course, and many will continue to do
Yeah,
that, but you don't have to anymore. Even the idea of if you're a collage, you're a collage maker, and I would guess decades ago it was about compiling a bunch of magazines and other source materials, getting, and that has inherent expenses to it. That is very different now that you can source so many images. I think if someone uses it as a proper tool, it can just open up the world to them. Is it dangerous? Is it going to take some sales away from some people? Sure, but I'm a firm believer that someone who wants to purchase a painting from an artist will continue to do that. They're not
yeah,
going to, decide that they want to get a painting that was made by a machine. Anyway, I digress. Let's go into the next image and see what you can share.
Roscoe. I'm such a Roscoe Hall fan for sure. So this is Roscoe's painting, Not No Mo, on God. Literally, if you look at the side of the painting, he titled it on the side and it says Not No Mo, on God.
Mm,
Um, so this is a new work by Roscoe Hall. I met Roscoe in SoCo. The entire show is like people I've met here in Charlotte, people from the Carolinas, and Black people who have been exhibited in Charlotte that I felt like other Black people needed to see. They were. So this was a
mm,
wonderful opportunity for that. And Roscoe was one of those people, namely because of how beautiful and painterly his paintings are, the visual texture of them alone, like the face of the guy up here, that he has built up this very textured patch in that area, and it's very bumpy and it's rough and you want to touch it. But then when you go and read his title card, it says things like acrylic and 25 milligrams of turmeric, Fats Domino, Bumping Loud. What else did this one say? Aperol spritzers, black agriculture, soil depletion, and that's all in his title card because he's thinking about all of these things while he's working, making these very active pieces. Because different than Damn It Wesley, Roscoe was a chef formerly, so his hands and
mm.
his body are always in a constant movement, and his paintings reflect that.
Yeah, I would love to see this in person when I get back down to Charlotte. I also love the contrast of this. You have this figure, but then this incredibly abstract background that is then broken up by the structures in the distance as well. A really, really
Yeah.
interesting painting. Yeah, yeah,
Wanted to keep it
fantastic.
because gentrification is an ongoing conversation, especially for Black people. So if you're living in the city, you see it happening, but you may not be thinking about your rural brothers and sisters. There's a lot of people who grew up on farms and are losing land left and right. And there's so much information out there about how how many Black farmers alone have been mistreated, not only from locals, but also from the government. One farmer may get cut a different check, but if you say you're a Black farmer, of course you get the pennies off the dollar.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I don't think many people think about gentrification outside of cities. Um,
Right. And we
yeah.
should because, think about it. Small towns around Charlotte are desperately trying to like clean themselves up and get together because if it's becoming too expensive to live in Charlotte, where's the transplant going to go? They're going to go to the towns that surround Charlotte within Mecklenburg County.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure.
So
And
everybody's
also, yeah, yeah. And also I think that what we learned through the pandemic is that, it's a privilege, a privileged few that can just decide to like be anywhere and like pick up and go to a small town, for example, and still continue to, you know, have their income, have their lifestyle, without regard for how they might be impacting these other places, in terms of the cost of living and other things. I mean, what's funny to me about gentrification is that everyone knows it's happening and everyone knows, how insidious it can be, but a lot of people just ignore it. It's like it's a very like strange thing. You ask people their opinions about it. People have these very strong opinions, but you ask them what they're doing about it, and like there's nothing I can, it's like there's nothing I can do about it. There is something you can do about it, right? There
hmm
certainly is. The choices we make, how we spend our money, is something we can do about it. But anyway,
yeah.
let's look at the next work. Love
Clarence
this.
Haywood, God is dope. Clarence was in the first biennial at the Gantt, and his bodies were a different color. They were like these very muted sepias on the dark side. And
Mhm.
then after that biennial, he started doing this. And it was just like, bro, this the glow up. This the glow up right here. That chroma key. What do we use chroma key green for? That's a
What do
question
we
for you,
use it for?
boo. Yeah, what do we use it for? I'm asking you.
I don't
Green
know.
screen
What do
technology.
we use it
Green screen technology.
for?
And what happens when you
Oh,
use a green screen?
okay. Yeah,
Disappearance,
yeah.
right? Right.
Right,
So
right.
all of his new works are in this chroma key green because he's addressing the fact that he sees the black person. He sees the portrait.
Ah,
But if we were to green screen it, the black person disappears. Society still treats
mm,
people of color like that, like we are invisible. Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man, if you will. Therefore,
oh,
his
that's smart.
work
That's
today in this
yeah.
context, extremely powerful.
Is this part of a series? So does he have multiple, works using this green tone?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's another artist in the show, Rashawn Ruckert. Clarence painted a portrait of him. It was super dope. Lately, the works I've been seeing from him is that he's been making portraits of his daughters because he
Wonderful,
sees them.
wonderful. Hmm. Yeah, this is a great piece. Um,
hmm
l- can you talk about the scale of this? Like approximately how large is this painting?
Um, let's see, that's like
Roughly.
36 by 60 over there. So I would honestly have to say like I want to say 36 by 48 so bad, but it's long and it's skinny.
Right, right,
So
right.
somewhere in between
So
there.
almost human scale, almost just a little, like
hmm
a little
Yeah.
human
Yes,
scale.
that's what I will say because it's large enough to think that if she were standing next to you, they would be the same height.
Right, right. No,
But it's
that's
not
just a good,
oversized.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. Very cool, very cool. Let's look at the next work.
Nadia and her chair. This is Nadia Meadows. Her chair, her table, and the only thing that's missing out of this image specifically is her light fixture. It's all made of synthetic hair. It
Mm.
unnerves me to touch it, like literally unnerves me. Like, I don't want to touch it. But it's so dope. It's like, Ma, this is so clean and well executed. The table is important because she's continuing in the tradition of quilters. It contains the North Star. The chair we're looking at is several different types of synthetic hair. The back of it says Queen, but if you were able to walk around to the front of it, it says yes. And every aspect and detail of the table and chair is covered in this synthetic hair. And just how clean she's laid it out all together. It's just like, nah, we gotta bring that back. Not enough people saw this piece from you, girl.
So is the work the image or is the work the objects?
The objects.
And the jacket she's wearing,
I
is
just
that
think this is a
connected to
fly
the work?
photo. Nah, that's just her in the photo. That's artists
Got
and
it. Got
artists work. Ha! Artists and they work.
it. No, that's dope. I like
She's
that a
been
lot.
working with black hair for an extremely long time since she's been studying at UNCC. She's graduated now. I've included her work in a previous local street exhibition I did where she literally has this 8 foot long hot comb that she built out of wood and mache. It's ridiculous. The only thing from her I couldn't get because it was already committed to another project is that she has this very large sculptural installation of one strand of black hair, and it's called
Mm,
Spin. And I was like,
hmm.
that's hitting me dead in my chest. But it was already committed to another space. So I was like, that's okay. I'm gonna figure out another place to put it in. That's okay. That's okay. I can wait. But I love that
No,
her
that's
work
great.
is so feminine and so like the visual texture alone of all of the different types of synthetic hair and then just the way she's using synthetic hair to continue to empower black women specifically. I'm a fan.
Yeah, the other like joy of curating is that you establish these relationships with artists that can go on for years. You mentioned wanting another work for your show, but that work's not available. And now you're kind of like in your mind, you're like, yeah, but I'm going to find a show that I can put that work in. That happens often. I think, my own practice as a curator, it's like sometimes there's just the artist that you just have to show. Yeah. And you have to find a way to do it, no matter what. Let's look at the next image.
Soups. Ooh, Rashawn
Yes.
Rucker, Formation of Spirit. I think this was 2022, I believe. This is an oversized church fan, literally as big as hell on the wall, right? And I got a wonderful question, which was the why behind it, like why this object? Because when we're in church, we worship things, we cherish things, we experience things. That fan is so iconic that it means something to people when they see it. So what Rashawn
Right.
Rucker did was through his photography, he put certain images on top of these church fans that span from his grandmother to a barbershop image to this specific image of Omega Psi Phi strolling during a Greek picnic. It's very powerful to see in person because there's so much movement, but the invisible lines throughout the piece, you end up standing in front of it, looking and continuing to look, and you're just rewarded for looking at the piece alone. If you know if you know D9, the way I know D9, every time
Hmm.
they get together, it's a celebration of each other. For Omega Psi Phi, I think one of their main mottos is that like friendship is key. That tight
Hmm.
brotherhood to extend over a period of time, that means something to Mr. Rucker, which is why it's been immortalized on this fan. So Rashawn Rucker, Clarence Hayward, and myself, we all went to North Carolina Central University
That's fantastic. That's really, really great.
at the same time.
And so this again, part of a series.
Mm-hmm. Because I've been watching what Ruck has been making since that's what we used to call him, by the way. That way we can make that clarification. I've been
Got
watching
it.
what he's been making since he's no longer a photojournalist for the Detroit Free Press.
Hmm.
Um, prints have been phenomenal. The drawings have been phenomenal. And these oversized church fans, that one shook me like, oh, is this what we're doing now? Now, okay, I got to figure out how to big my game up.
Love it. Let's go to the next image. I think we're down to the final two or three.
Ooh, Ariel Danielle. She's so much fun. The whole point of her paintings is just black women being. Like why can't I just be? Like just that, like just being, you know? So this one Fresh Set is what this one is called. And the more
Mm.
you look at it, the more all of her fingernails are some detail from Sailor Moon. If you know anime and you know Sailor Moon,
Mhm. I've
this
heard.
this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
painting,
I've heard of it.
yes.
Watched it.
So the reason why I truly wanted to keep this image in there with the anime reference is that I have truly fallen in love with the growth of Black cosplayers and the growth of
Mm.
just Black people admitting that, yeah, fam, you was watching Dragon Ball on what channel was that in Charlotte? Channel 46 in Charlotte on Saturdays. Don't play with me. You was watching it with me, you know? And her technical execution is just absolutely flawless. But when we think about Black women, Sailor Moon isn't really the first thing that comes up, if you think about
Right,
it. But
right.
that admission of how much of a fan a woman is, and the fact that she got those little fancy nails too, because I'm not a nail girl, clearly. I wouldn't know what to
Right.
do, let alone how to pick up a spoon to eat rice, you know? But everything about it is just yes. And I love her spirit. So she was also in Soko and another one of those Black artists that I felt like more Black people need to see your stuff. I don't think they coming over here. So we're gonna put you in the can.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's look at the next work.
Kaylin Renee Devon. Love her. She's one of my art children, one of the folk that I was talking about that were able to walk away from a full-time job to pursue art full-time. And at first, she went viral for like celebrity portraits, and then she met me, and then I tore her down about the celebrity portraits because this doesn't work in the art world. Um, and then we spent time together, and she came out with this phenomenal series of paintings of her. She was just shooting herself in like stressing clothes, and when she
Mm.
executed it, I'm like, "God, this is fantastic." And then she turns around and she comes back with this. And I said, this is just a dude reading and he just trying to be. She said, yeah, that was it. I just wanted to paint his shoes. You just wanted to paint his shoes? You did a lot for just wanting to paint somebody's shoes. You know what I'm saying? Her technical execution as an oil painter is just phenomenal. And the reason why she needs to be of conversation is that we're coming across finally a new generation of Black artists, young Black artists that are truly beginning to understand light on Black skin, right? So a lot of new artists, when they jump out there and they want to paint Black people, white and Black as highlight and shadow does not work well for us. The more you pay attention to the light play, the more you'll be able to say, well, these are blues and greens, or these shadow undertones are warm. Maybe I should use purples. Maybe I should use umber, everything but
Mm.
that. I wish we could zoom
Mm.
in on it because stuff like the highlights in the balloon, the highlights in his pants. When you come and see the show, look at the highlights on just the visible skin of his alone. And it just
Mm.
pops. It's perfect. She, yes, babe, you're in the show because you're creating paintings similar to Ariel, but not executed the same way. You're just creating paintings about being, and you're just showing us what you see. Yes, that is valid. It works.
Yeah, the execution on this is really, really stellar. Yeah, I can't wait to see it in person. So the last image we have here is a bit different. Um, so yeah, I'd love to hear about this work.
This is Shayla Scott. She's 20 years old, and she's heading to Paris next year for the Olympics. And this was shot by Surf Mitchell. Surf is a Charlotte native like myself, and you know, we might not have been coming from the best circumstances, but we definitely are defying the fact that if you're born and raised in Charlotte and you're poor, you may stay poor, right? We're desperately trying to defy that and show how creative we are. He was someone I felt that was missing from the retreat that would have provided valuable input because a lot of people don't really recognize the fact that Surf is not a hobby shooter. He's not a commercial shooter. He's a fine art photographer that knows how to acquire commercial gigs. There's a huge thing the two.
Mm-hmm.
And this right here is the rebirth of how powerful Surf is when he is out there shooting. I mean, the girl is tall. She can jump 6 feet off the ground just from standing, right? But this level of execution in a photograph is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
Like,
great.
I am very well aware all of the details are not translating through this virtual space, but he took this girl somewhere that was close to him to the water, dressed in white. This whole image is Southern as all get out, and I'm trying to do my best to not curse on this call. But the whole image itself, to me, it was giving hoodoo vibes to me, because that's what this section down into low country, that's all that this section of the US is about, and it extends out, if you will,
Right.
across the southern region. This whole image, without knowing that it goes together and has true significance, it reminded me of The People Could Fly. And I
Right.
can't do a
Right.
show surfing because everybody
Well,
needs to
look,
see his execution.
I think these images are obviously only a portion of the artists that are in the show, and I think
Hmm.
if anything, it really I think shows the quality and sort of caliber of the work and the artist, but also how you've sort of stayed on that theme and developed it through. I want to congratulate you. I think these are fantastic selections, and look, I know how difficult it is to look at dozens and dozens and dozens of works and from perhaps scores of artists and have to narrow it down, and then people wondering
Hmm.
why you didn't choose this, you chose that, and the whole politics.
Thank you for saying
What
it
gets,
out loud for me.
who gets in the show and what work by them gets in the show and why you chose this and didn't choose that. I mean, the curatorial process is not just the opening night. There's a whole crazy drama that plays out in the background. And so I can
Yeah.
definitely, respect that. We're down to our final, final question. And,
I
I
gotta get to the
really
bathroom.
appreciate your generosity here. So my final question for you is like, what does being an artist reveal to you about yourself?
That I'm sensitive. No matter how intimidating people may think I am, I'm sensitive.
Mm.
It hits me. It hits me. When it's dope, and I want to know more. And when I can connect, I'm happy. I'm about to die.
Yeah, I think you might be talking about your power chord. So I'll give you a moment. The irony is that I think we're both in the same situation. Oh. Well, I think we're going to do our closing words. So, Carla, thank you for a fantastic conversation. The Gantt Center's goal is always to provide programs that inform and inspire. The support of viewers like you allows the Gantt to expand its reach and further develop programs like Open Air. Lend your support to the Gantt Center by texting "Give to Gantt" to 91999. Again, you text GIVE, the number two, GANTT, give to Gantt to the number 91999. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel for future programs and other video content updates. We thank you all for joining us for another great open air conversation, and we look forward to next month's open air with artist Ruby Onyenyechi Amanze. Have a great evening, and thank you all.